You know what that is, Tommy?
They're loyal.
That's right.
Whether you are returning as a fan or are just now being introduced to the series for the first time, this reimagining of the 2002 action-adventure classic is sure to cater to both newcomers and veteran players alike. From intense car chases through the downtown streets of Lost Heaven to vicious shootouts with rival gangs fighting for control of the city, Mafia Definitive Edition plans to take you on a wild ride through the seedy underbelly of 1930s organized crime. I'm Cyrus with SBG, and this is SBG Reviews. In this spoiler-free review, we'll be looking at the PlayStation 4 digital copy of Mafia Definitive Edition. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that bell icon to stay up to date with the latest SBG content whenever it releases. For those revisiting the franchise, it's already apparent that Hangar 13's Mafia Definitive Edition is a complete overhaul of Illusion Softworks' blockbuster title, Mafia, which was released back in 2002 for Microsoft Windows and subsequently for the PlayStation 2 and Xbox in 2004. It's unique in the fact that it's been rebuilt entirely from the ground up, having all new assets, an expanded story, new gameplay mechanics, and an original score by composer Jess Harlan. Not only that, but the script has been completely rewritten, having all new and improved dialogue and revised story developments. The game also features brand new performances from a new cast of actors, with Andrew Bongiorno taking on the role of the protagonist Tommy Angelo, a cabbie-turned-mobster overnight who works for Don Ennio Salieri, one of the city's most infamous mob bosses. The story still takes place in the fictional city of Lost Heaven during the 1930s, at the time of the Great Depression and the final years of Prohibition, with Tommy Angelo recalling the events of his rise and fall as a trusted mob soldier working for the Salieri crime family, as he confesses to his life of crime to a detective that's been chasing his tail for the better part of half a decade. Each chapter of his story serves as a mission in the game, which can range from fixing a sporting event to carrying out risky assassination plots. Altogether, there are 20 chapters in the single-player campaign to get through, which you can play on 4 separate difficulties: easy, medium, hard, and classic mode. Classic mode is undoubtedly the hardest difficulty in the game, as the enemies are much deadlier, police are more efficient in all situations, first aid kits aren't as effective, and whenever you reload a weapon, you forfeit the magazine and whatever ammo was in it. Not to mention that there are no guides on the road to help you find your destination, so expect to be constantly looking at your map unless you have the city memorized like the back of your hand. Once you start the single-player campaign, Mafia Definitive Edition doesn't waste any time throwing you right into the fire, as the first mission starts off with you having to escape a group of mob goons in your taxi, after being kindly coerced by members of the Salieri family, Polly Lombardo and Sam Trapani, to do so. This mission serves as an introduction to the game's core driving mechanics, which seems to be the main focus of the entire game, as a majority of missions you play in Mafia will consistently involve you driving from point A to point B, whether it's casually dropping somebody off to pick up some extortion money, or trying to evade police who are aiming to take you and your crew down, dead or alive. However, you do have an option to skip some driving portions in the game by simply going into the options menu, scrolling down the game tab, and checking off the skip driving option. It won't affect you from getting any trophies, so the only real sacrifice is missing out on some friendly banter and character developments. Throughout the campaign, you'll get to traverse through the newly redesigned environments of Lost Heaven, all of which are heavily inspired by 1930s New York and Chicago, the prime hubs of organized criminal activity during that time period. You'll even have opportunities to travel outside the city from time to time for certain missions, from the outer countryside of Lost Heaven to being out at sea on a paddle steamer. The environments around you will change as well, with the social and political climates relevant to those years, creating a sense of world building as you progress through the game. It's also worth quickly noting that the addition of the radio and news broadcast in the game definitely aid in the game's world building, as you'll hear commentary on the increasing mob violence in Lost Heaven, current world events taking place, And, if you didn't catch it, foreshadowing events in the game that pertain to the chapter you are playing or have yet to play. Unfortunately, you won't really get a chance to explore all the corners of the map in the game's linear campaign. However, you do have the option of entering the game's free ride mode, which is a homage to the originals' free ride and free ride extreme modes. In free ride mode, you can explore all the many facets of Lost Heaven by vehicle or on foot, and complete additional phone booth missions that are spread out around the city. Not only that, but you also have full access to a garage filled with all kinds of vehicles, Vinny's armory, and a wardrobe that you can use to change your outfit. You can even change the time of day and weather conditions if you wish. Free ride mode becomes available once you complete the first mission, an offer you can't refuse. Though everything is cosmetically stunning to look at, from the small details on vehicles and clothing to the larger landscapes and environments in various settings of lights and weather conditions, it's worth mentioning that you may run into some serious bugs in the game every once in a while, such as ghost trails, vanishing walls, weird choppy combat animations, vehicle spawning and despawning on the road, and other errors in the game that may force you to restart the game. At one point in the game, I even fell through the ground during combat and died, which almost cost me the mission's progress. The game's audio also glitched out on me, muting everything except for the dialogue. I'm not sure if my copy was defective, but this isn't the first time I heard about this reoccurring for other gamers, so keep that in mind. As I previously mentioned, the main feature and core game mechanics of Mafia Definitive Edition seems to be the driving aspect in the game, especially with the availability of two driving modes, regular and simulation. In regular mode, the vehicles are still fairly realistic to their real-world counterparts, from their drag and acceleration speed to the lack of traction your tires will have in pulling around the corner. However, if you choose simulation driving, expect these effects to be amplified, as trying to make quick turns, speeding off, and simply braking will become a hassle to accomplish. Whenever you drive in the game, it really does feel like there's some weight in the vehicle that you're driving, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But sometimes it can feel like you're driving a buttered up iron bar through a grease trap. Just be sure to know that car chases, and especially the infamous racing mission, may take you a few tries at first. Throughout the game, you can collect and choose from over 50 passenger cars, trucks, and newly added motorcycles in the game, so there's plenty of room to experiment and find the vehicle that's right for you. The combat system is nothing really special in my opinion. For shootouts, you'll find yourself hiding behind cover frequently, as you try and plant a couple of shots on an enemy who's doing the exact same thing, like most third-person shooters you would come across these days. The only real difference is that enemies in this game are more likely to just use Molotov cocktails on you in almost every single situation, from farm ambushes to a church shootout. This can get pretty annoying, especially in hard and classic mode, when one hit from these things almost means instantaneous death. In many cases during shootouts, however, you can almost always spot a nearby barrel or gas can that is conveniently placed throughout sections of the battlefield that once you shoot will erupt or cause a chain reaction of explosions that will take out a slew of enemies. Hand-to-hand combat is a little bit clunky too, but I find it the most enjoyable part of the combat mechanics in the game. With every punch you throw, you can almost feel like you're actually landing one on the enemy you're facing off against, which is pretty satisfying. Regularly, I find myself running past enemy fire just to beat someone into submission with a baseball bat or a lead pipe. There's also a stealth element that will frequently come up during certain missions in the game that you'll have to abide by, such as sneaking into homes and properties and avoiding detection from police and enemy mobsters. Though you don't have to be stealthy for all of them, you'll notice that it comes in handy in many other situations, as you can sneak past enemies who are firing at a spot they last saw you at and ambush them when they're least expecting it. Overall, Mafia Definitive Edition has to be up there with being one of my top story-driven games I've played through in recent years. It's honestly a surprise I haven't played it sooner. And while the gameplay does fall flat every now and then, with glitches and bugs sprinkled about, I'd be wrong to say that I didn't have fun playing it all together. That, combined with seeing a diverse set of characters develop, hearing the authentic performances the actors gave, and watching the thrilling and compelling story of a 1930s crime drama unravel after every chapter, made for a great and brisk game to play through. Mafia Definitive Edition gets a thumbs up from me. Hey guys, thank you all so much for watching our first ever review on SBG. Remember to stay subscribed and click that bell icon to stay up to date with our latest content whenever it drops on the channel. If you liked the review, make sure to leave a like to see more content like this in the future. Have you played Mafia Definitive Edition already? Leave a comment below and tell us how your experience was. Also, if you want to support me, the voice behind the review, follow me on Twitter @Cyrus and keep up with what I do too. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next review.